roll into it. All right, we are live. We're going to give it the traditional 10 seconds or so to let everyone file in, find their seats, get situated a little bit. But welcome to Stop Marketing, Start Educating. This is the webinar series that we've been doing, just teaching financial advisors how to succeed with short form video. Today, we're joined by Cameron Howe with Investipal. So we're going to talk a little bit more about him. We work super closely. I use them to generate further leads for my business, and it just ties in so well to all of the work that I do with short form video. So it was just a no-brainer that we were going to get together and really talk about how these fit into a sales funnel. Without further ado, I'm on the wrong tab. There we go. My name is Nate Hoskin. I'm the founder and lead advisor of Hoskin Capital. I'm also the co-founder of N2 with my buddy Nick, who is above me on my screen at the very least. I built my entire financial advisory firm without spending a single dollar on paid ads. In fact, I didn't really do any marketing. I didn't do any sort of SEO optimization. I tried to write a blog, I guess, but immediately found out that it wasn't successful. The only thing that I did was I made short form videos. And this has turned these numbers that you're seeing on screen into kind of outdated numbers, even though we just fixed this presentation, right? Because we're currently looking more in the range of 150, 160 million views. We're looking at over 160 clients from social media, and we are still sitting in that 7 to 10 inbound prospects per week. Of those, 3 to 4 are actually booking organic calls. So that's the power of short form video. That's why we're here today, to show you guys exactly what to do. We are not going to give you platitudes. We're not going to try to sound really smart on this. We're just going to clear out the bullshit and show you exactly how to make this happen in your practice. Nick, great to have you on as usual, and always good to see you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I spent 4 years as a financial advisor before I started my whole social media journey thing back in 2020. I took a little bit different route than Nate, where I was still working a day job at an RIA who did not really embrace short form video as much as I thought they should have. So instead of using this to build up my own book of clients, I instead just treated it as like an outlet for me to share what I wish I knew about money growing up with the entire world. So since I spent so much time as a financial advisor and got my CFP, I knew a lot of stuff that would have really helped younger me growing up. And I felt like I just had an obligation to share that with the world. But fast forward 1 year later, I had a couple 100,000 followers. I had probably over 100 million views at that point. And I was getting a lot of interest from large financial brands who have recognized the value that short form video provided, like Fidelity, like Discover Bank, like Ally Bank, a bunch of different credit unions, TurboTax, et cetera. And it didn't really make sense for me to keep working my day job as an advisor. And instead, I took the leap, went full time as what you consider like your typical content creator, and have worked on advertising campaigns with over 100 of the largest financial brands in the US on these short form video platforms. And now I have over 1.7 million followers, actually 350 million plus total views now. And it's absolutely insane how much traction I've been able to get just speaking about money on the internet. It's wild.
Yes. And then we have the man of the hour. We've got Mr. Cameron Howe. Cam, thank you so much for joining us. We're so stoked to be able to do something like this with a company like Investipal. You guys are doing fantastic work. We were on a podcast together on your pod and just ranting about quantitative finance. I think you bring a really cool perspective to what is considered more retail investing, or investing from the advisory side rather than big institutions. I think you've brought the science and made it really accessible. And then you've done something beautiful, which is you've turned it into a way to get leads and to better educate your clients. So welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Nate, thanks for having me on. And as always, it's a pleasure chatting with both of you. So I got started as a quant at one of the big Canadian investment banks. I worked a lot with institutional money managers, but I also worked a lot with investment advisors. And to your point, in 2021, I had a lot of my own friends reaching out looking for help around investing. We saw a big wave of retail investors coming in, and I wanted to help them be able to be a bit more self-service with how they were managing their wealth, moving them away from this short-term gambling mentality to more of a long-term thinking. So we ended up launching Investipal originally as a retail investing solution. And we actually had some advisors come to us looking to leverage our platform for their own book. And upon working a lot with them, we found, the big pain points besides portfolio management was just like, how do I capture a younger audience? And how do I move away from just relying on referrals to building a more scalable strategy? I think like Kitsy's put out a report where advisors spend about 80% of their time on their back office, but most of the ones that we work with, that I like to work with, are in growth mode where that 80% should be spent on building your business, not working within it. So a lot of what we've been building out is to help try to optimize that, so to turn your practice into more of a growth engine, just like how you've done, Nate, where you have a funnel coming in, you need a way to scale up that funnel, help convert people faster. But the other thing that I'm very passionate about as well is, how do you build more personalized relationships with your clients? Like the one size fits all approach, I think, is going the way of the dodo bird now, and clients want more personalized advice from their advisors, and that's something that we've really been striving for, is how do you help foster those better relationships?
Yes. Yeah. And Cam, you and I have been working together, and I've been using Investipal as a tool through that transition period where I was in growth mode and I was really trying to put that 80% towards my business, but then it worked and I got busy. And then I had to do client work. I had that starting to overload. And so we worked together to really optimize that sales funnel and say, what are the tools that we're using? How do you take information from a client and provide it directly to them in a way that they can understand? So we're going to talk towards the end of this webinar on how do we combine these two tools? Why does it make so much sense to make short form video and then use Investipal to capture those leads? Because if any of you are wondering what is going on when that prospect or when that perfect client just isn't answering your cold call or isn't answering your email, the chances are they are watching a short form video, because we know that 244 million viewers in the United States watch an average of 17 hours of short form video per week. And this is from 2022. You guys have seen the proliferation of short form video, whether it's on LinkedIn and you're looking at the advisors who are creating it, or you're scrolling it yourself, you know how much of a table stake this has become. So if anything, these numbers are only higher today. But it's not just that they're watching, because we all like to watch how to make the best fried chicken from the random creator. They are also using it to make buying decisions. They want to watch a short form video to learn about a product or service. And most of them will say that watching a short form video was the thing that convinced them to buy that product or service. With financial advisors, we take that one layer deeper, because not only are we educating them on what we do and educating them on finance in general, we are also building trust at scale. That's the most powerful thing when it comes to being an advisor in this social media world, is that I build trust at scale with more than 6 million people per month. That is not a blog. That is not the number of people that I could meet at a networking event. These are numbers that barely feel real to me, but those are the people that are interacting with my content. And then there's always the question, and I want Nick to dive into this because I think he says it better than I do. But the question is, Nick, is my perfect client, if I'm working with retirees or pre-retirees, are they even on social media? Like, if I put in all this effort, am I going to get to them?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest misconceptions we hear when we speak with advisors about short form video specifically, is they think it's all like teenagers and 20 somethings, like people their kids' age, that are all on these platforms, and like no one that has actual investable assets. But as you can see on the slide, that is clearly not the case. Again, this is kind of old data. It's like 2 or 3 years old, but it shows how what percentage of the 30 plus age brackets are active on each individual social media platform. And then you can see just how proliferated the short form video content has been across every single age demo, whether it's even TikTok. There's a pretty hefty percentage on there. But even like Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, you're going to be really hard pressed not to find hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of people that fit your ideal client profile active on each one of these platforms. And Nate, you can attest yourself that these people, not only do they fit in the typical age brackets that you probably typically work with as an advisor, they also have investable assets. You should tell about the one video you posted last year that got you like 10 million AUM.
Yeah, so I had one video that I posted that got me 6 million in AUM and an additional 4 million in AUA. And it was just a single video that I made sitting in this office on my beanbag chair. I had a double chin, didn't think it was going to do anything. And I ended up meeting with a client who recently sold part of his company to a private equity firm. And I met with another client who was a real estate guru who owned a whole bunch of goodness, commercial real estate. And so between these two, it was an absolutely life-changing event for my firm. And they found me on TikTok. When we're looking at these numbers, you're thinking, oh, okay, I should be posting on Facebook. I should be posting on YouTube. But we'll prove to you today that there is no added cost to posting on every single platform. So it makes perfect sense. You simply have no idea which platform is going to really connect with your perfect client. And it is so easy to just post to all of them and really atomize that content. And we're behind. That's all I'm going to say. Nick, I mean, we were talking about this earlier that if someone can sell private jets on TikTok, I think there's going to be room for financial advisors to find a place to really shine. What's your take?
Exactly. Yeah, you see professions that have traditionally had kind of a higher income client. They've adopted short form video for like the last 3 years. Like lawyers, real estate agents, private jet salesmen, and even the government. Obviously, they don't really sell to people, but even the government recognizes that short form video specifically is where all of the eyeballs are at. So if you want to reach your next ideal client, in the case of a lawyer, real estate agent, private jet salesman, even, or just reach the people that you want to provide information to, like the government, short form video is the medium to do that in.
Yes. And if you guys have not checked out the National Park Service, I highly recommend it. It is unhinged in the best possible way. It makes me want to go and pay that fee for the Rocky Mountain National Park, something like that. Like they get me every single time. And the reason they're getting me, the reason these private jet brokers are succeeding and the reason advisors can be so successful is because social media and holding someone in your hand does something weird to humans' brains. Because as a baseline, we associate trust with distance. The people that we trust can be closer to us physically. Whereas financial advisors, maybe you're across a desk from them, but they don't make it to your dinner parties, right? They don't necessarily make it to that barbecue. There is this wall, there is this trust gap in these relationships that you guys know are really close. We're very close to our clients, but you're not in the palm of their hands the same way until you're communicating to them with video. And that's really the main benefit here is that when you are holding someone in the palm of your hand, you are 2 feet from them and they are providing you exceptional value. It's fun to watch. The lighting is good. The audio is perfect. That builds trust in a way that is impossible, even if you are standing at a bar with someone. It is such a personal experience and it allows you to break down those walls that people naturally put up and get in front of them in a totally different way. And at the end of the day, we always ask, okay, so you can get views. We're talking about instinctual bias. We're talking about all these brain things that are working, but does this actually turn into sales? And the answer is yes, because between July 1st and December 31st of last year, I created 86 videos. Yes, that is a lot of videos, but short form video is so incredibly easy to produce that this was not a huge lift for me. And it resulted in people actually showing up to my links page, which is a very important theme of this conversation. We'll be talking about the links page a lot because on that links page, they could click to schedule a call with me. And that call is just through Calendly. So I can see the exact analytics of how many people came in from my social media link. And I had 92 created events. Of course, a couple of them get canceled. So you end up having 74 meetings, but that is still an average of 3 meetings per week. That means that people are self-selecting, deciding they're a good client for me and putting time on my calendar to have a video call. I cannot think of a warmer lead beyond a referral, and I would really struggle to get 3 referrals per week. Some of you guys might be crushing it, and if so, please share your secrets because that would be amazing. But short form video is the only way that I've found to really see numbers like this. And it's super easy to start. It is incredibly affordable. You can really get started for less than 1 paid ad. Nick, I know you're still using a couple of pieces of this equipment, and I've actually got my tripod right behind me holding up my lights. So what is your take on how an advisor should start with short form video? Do they need to really throw money at the wall to try to get this to stick?
You know the answer to that, and it is no. If you guys have ever explored making a podcast, making long form YouTube videos, or really any other medium of content, you're probably a little blown away by how much the actual gear costs. Like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and spend $800 on this microphone so I don't sound like gargly garbage, or I have to go buy this super expensive 4K camera to make sure that I'm not super grainy when I come across on video. But short form video isn't like that, because as long as you have a relatively recent model phone and you have just these three things on screen that cost less than $200, you're going to have basically the exact same video quality as all of the top creators on these platforms. And you don't want to go too high with the video quality, because, hey, if you buy this 4K camera, it's going to make you look too professional. It's going to make it too obvious that you put a lot of money into this, and you're going to be coming across as like kind of salesy, and people are going to scroll by if your content doesn't look organic. So that's why I do have a kind of expensive camera, I admit, but it has the ability to shoot in 4K, but I purposely put it in 1080p, which is lower than 4K, because I want it to look more authentic to the platform. But out of all three of these, I think audio is by far and away the most important. That's the Rode Video Mic BL we recommend right here. This is better than the like $200 microphone I'm speaking into right now. And just to show you how better it is than a different option like AirPods or like your iPhone, etc., we have this little thing on the screen that Nick can hit the play button for, and we can show you just how crazy the difference in audio is.
Okay, check me and make sure the audio is coming through.
All right.
Test of audio on the iPhone's built-in microphone.
Test of audio on AirPods.
This is a test of the Ulanzi wireless microphone. Audio recording using the Rode Video Mic Me L. Audio test of the Rode Video Mic Pro Plus.
As you can see,
pretty big difference.
It's incredible. It's incredible how much just a couple bucks can make that difference. And you don't need to upgrade that much further. Like really getting that start and focusing on the content that you are creating, that is going to be the most important component. But it's the last thing we check off, because it's so easy to make your production quality higher than any other financial advisor on any of these platforms. Audio, as Nick mentioned, is probably the most important, followed only by lighting.
Exactly. Yeah, lighting is something that I'll just demonstrate how important it is right now. So this is me with my two softbox lights positioned like 45 degrees on either side of me, just like it's shown in the picture. And 1 second later, here's what I look like now. Obviously not great. A lot of advisors, they also have like their overhead lights on when they're recording content, and it just casts this huge shadow over your face that is really not ideal. So by just making a small investment of like, what is it, like $150 into these, or even less, it's like $80 for these soft boxes, your lighting can go from this to, wait for it, this. It's just so much better. It makes you kind of light up on the camera. And really the goal with lighting is to make you stand out from the background and just make it look natural, essentially.
Yep. Yeah, and this is a great example of Nick with his different lighting setups. This is the exact same phone. It is taken with his iPhone. It is not taken with that fancy camera. And you can see that it fixed all of the problems just by changing the lighting rather than spending more money to try to adjust for it mechanically. So we talked about audio, we talked about lighting. Those are the main two things to check off. And then of course you just need something to hold your phone. So that's going to be your tripod. Super straightforward to get started. Now we can get into the meat of it, because you're going to need some sort of profile, right? You're going to need a way that people can look at you and understand who is this person and what do they do. When it comes to best practices, you're looking at both my profile and you're looking at Nick's profile. Ours are very similar, and we encourage every single advisor to really just take these and don't copy paste, but understand the structure. Nick, what is your take on the perfect bio? I think that the rest of these are pretty self-explanatory. The only thing that I'll highlight is that you can see that Nick's profile picture looks way better than mine does. He's got that green background. That makes it pop so much more than just the natural stuff that I have on mine. So everything else, pretty straightforward. Nick, what is your take on the bio?
Yeah, there are three main elements you want to include in your bio if you have the space. We're showing screenshots of our TikTok profiles right now, and the character limit is a lot shorter on there than it is on something like Instagram. So I only have 2 out of these 3. But first and foremost, you want to tell someone that visits your profile how they would benefit from one, following you, and two, watching your content. So, for example, mine is I make personal finance fun. And if you look at any of my content, you can see this. I make it very easy to understand and very entertaining throughout the way, just so people don't feel bored while watching personal finance content. And that is my main value proposition that I tell people. And 1.1 million plus people on TikTok alone thinks that's compelling enough to give me a follow. And then on Nate's, he doesn't have this on his TikTok bio, but Nate, what is yours on Instagram again?
Yeah, so I actually recently went through and changed this because it would be useless if I couldn't follow our own advice, right? And so my main call to act, or sorry, my main value add, the thing that I am providing to someone if they follow me is that I make money simple. And so that is always what I promise to do. I'm not anywhere near as fun as Nick is. He is a far better presenter. He's really good at drilling it down and making it presented in a really fun way. I'm a little bit more dry because I'm a financial advisor. I'm a professionally trained investor. I want to share details on things that are a little bit more just esoteric and strange. But what I do is I take those big ideas and I make them very simple. That's my promise.
Yeah. And then the other two elements of a good bio, one could be adding your credibility. So that's something that Nate did a lot in his prior bio, which is, hey, he's an Investipedia top 100 advisor. That's pretty impressive. That shows that, hey, maybe I should listen to what this guy's talking about when it comes to money. He also says he's a speaker, creator, and CFP. So again, showing his credibility there, especially with those professional destinations. And then finally, you want to have a CTA or a call to action, which tells people how they can engage further with you if they want more than just the content that you're providing them. Mine specifically, I drive down to like lead magnets and other investing partners that I have. Nate specifically says, hey, let's chat. And he links down to a landing page, which we'll go over here soon in a couple slides, that drives people to, one, learn more about him, and then two, schedule a free strategy call with him, which is exactly like the main part of his funnel, which is what he wants his viewers to eventually end up doing if they fit his ideal client profile.
Absolutely. I want people to self-select. I want them to make the decision for me so that by the time we're having a conversation, they already know that I'm someone that they want to work with. And that links page is absolutely essential. That is the number one change that I made because I got 50,000 followers in 2 months. I absolutely blew up on social media, but I did not get a single financial advisory client because my links page did not convert. But we're not going to talk about that just yet. We're going to talk about scripting first, because now you can create the content, but what in the world do you talk about? What do you actually think through? I mean, I know that all of you are content creators at heart. Whether you're a blogger, you are posting on LinkedIn, or you're talking to your clients, you are creating an evergreen amount of content in the conversations that you have with your clients. And we call them light bulb moments, because you can see when you tell someone a fact about their portfolio or something they can change, and you see the light bulb go up above their head. That is something that can be distilled down into a video. And that is a lot of what I do. I just take some notes along with the rest of my regular client notes saying, these are the things that I could turn into a video. Talking about, how do rich people pay lower taxes? What does that look like? What about that person I was talking to about management fees, and really explaining to them why they can be really challenging and why a fixed fee might be the better way to go, simply because that's how I've structured my firm. But that came from a client meeting. So as you can see, we have a Notion template. We'll provide this to you in one of our follow-up emails so that you guys can get exactly what we use to organize our content. Each of these cards has a body to them. So if we click on when you should do Roth versus a traditional IRA, it will open up and you can see all of our different fields. I like to have a compliance approval. I like to say, okay, this is the person that approved the video and this is when they approved it. That way I just have another record for compliance, which we'll talk about a little bit, but we have dedicated compliance webinars that we do that you can go check out. I also have my edit notes in. I choose to outsource my editing, which is something that both Nick and I absolutely recommend if you're able to do it. It's, again, super affordable. We're talking 40 to 55 bucks a video. So not an insane investment to take something completely off of your plate and allowing you to focus more on the most important part, which is writing that script and really nailing down that content. The Script is written, as you can see, in lines. These are 1 to 2 sentences. The reason that I do this is because when I'm filming, I just have my computer next to me and I will memorize one line, turn towards the camera, take that line, and if I don't like it, I can just retake it again and then turn back and do the next one. That way I don't get a full minute into my video and flub a word and screw something up and suddenly I'm like, oh God, I have to retake all of it again? No. I just have to retake that one line. So those are our recommendations on scripting. You'll be able to see these examples, and we have actually put together a database of the most viral scripts in the personal finance niche. That's something that we're going to make available as part of our offer today. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but you can see exactly how other people wrote scripts that went insanely viral, and you can use that same structure and you can use those same ideas to do the same. Nick, anything you want to add on the content organization? And then of course, how do we actually structure those scripts? What do we think about when we're writing them?
Yeah, so scripting is something that we do for every single video that we write, mainly for a lot of the reasons that Nate mentioned, but also just to like make sure that the videos aren't longer than they have to be. Because the one thing about people watching short form video, as I'm sure you're aware, their attention spans aren't the highest. I mean, short form video is definitely not doing any favors to the attention spans of the world. So you want to make sure that you pack as much value per second into your video as humanly possible, and scripting your content out word for word really does help you do that. Because I know if as you can see right now, I'm rambling. And if I didn't have my video scripted out word for word, I would end up rambling and make it like 30 seconds longer than it has to be. And that would kill watch time, which is the number one metric that determines whether or not your video is successful. So how we structure our scripts can be even simpler than what we have on screen. But basically, as long as you have a strong hook, which in the first 3 seconds of video, you tell someone exactly why they should watch. And it is really helpful if you can elicit some sort of emotion like curiosity, or if you're like a news channel, for example, anger is a really powerful one that gets people to watch more. But we like to stay away from that, obviously, because we like to educate more than make people angry. But you hook someone, and then immediately after the hook, you have to start delivering as much value per second as possible throughout your entire video. And if you wanted to end it there, if it's a shorter video, you could just end with a CTA or call to action, like you mentioned, for your bio. That could be anything from follow to learn more about money, download my free lead magnet in my bio, schedule a free strategy call, etc. One tip about CTAs is that you only want to include one per video. If you include more, I've seen time and time again when I have tested this, people won't do any. So if you tell people to like, comment, subscribe is something you hear often from YouTubers. I don't know why they do that, because people, if they're like overwhelmed by the options, like, hey, tell me one thing to do and maybe I'll think about doing that, as opposed to tell me to do all 3 of these things. I'm not going to do any of them. So pick a purpose behind each single video, whether you want to drive new followers, whether you just want to drive engagement through likes and comments, or whether you want to drive engagements off platform like lead magnets or free strategy calls.
Yes. Nick actually gave me a really good piece of feedback when we were looking at my videos when we were starting N2. And that piece of feedback was, make sure that when you are doing a call to action, the call to action is the very last thing in your video. So instead of saying, follow me to learn more about personal finance, you can say, if you want to learn more about personal finance, hit follow. That call to action word is the very last thing, because that is the highest chance that someone is going to scroll. Again, watch time is the only thing we care about with these platforms. How long is someone watching your video? If we can get them to watch all the way up until the end and say, oh, they told me to follow, I'm going to scroll, well, that's okay. The video was starting to replay anyways. All right, you've scripted it. You have your lighting set up. You have everything ready to go. How do you actually sit down and record? What does this look like? So what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to play through my 2 videos. I'll show you a little bit about how I approach recording, and then I'll play Nick's 2, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the more interesting styles that you can take. If you have a Roth IRA, you need to understand the 5-year rule. In fact, there are 3 5-year rules. So I'm going to break down. If I was 25 with no kids making $100,000 a year, this is exactly how I would save and invest my money. So as you can see, we have very specific hooks. There are all of the scripting elements that we just talked about, but these are both filmed totally differently. This is what I was talking about. It's not technically a beanbag chair. It's one of those big circular chairs that I like to sit in. So I'm sitting there with a double chin. I am holding my phone in my hand, but my lighting is really good. My audio is sneaky perfect. Everything is just not quite noticeable because of how high quality it is. But I'm still very relaxed. It looks like we're sitting and having a FaceTime call. That's one option. I really enjoy these. I want to do more of these because I've spent a lot of time recently sitting at my desk. That's the second structure. These work incredibly well to convert clients. I think that I look a little bit more professional, and I am able to emote a little bit more because you can see my arms and you can see my hands. So those two are really good options. I recommend both for advisors at all times. I think these should be really the mainstays of the content that you are creating. But Nick is incredibly, incredibly good at both the skit style and the outdoor style. We actually just spoke with a prospect and we were like, yeah, I mean, if you're hiking and traveling full time, you can do that. Nick has actually filmed videos on his hikes that have gotten a couple 100,000, a couple of them broke more than
Couple
a
million.
million, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're responsible
millions
for probably
and
like
millions of
25% of my
views.
following. Yeah.
Yeah, good Lord. You took a video on a hike and it was responsible for 25% of your following on Instagram, right?
Yeah, on Instagram specifically, yeah.
Yeah, so we're still talking about hundreds of thousands of followers from something you filmed while being outside. So let's watch through these. I adore these.
Good morning. I'd like to cancel my hotel reservation. Will do, but we'll have to charge you a $300 cancellation fee because it's less than 24 hours before your booking. Can you cut me some slack here?
Poor quirky habits shared by most millionaires. If you make your bed every morning, you're 206.8% more likely to be a millionaire. If you don't smoke, you're 258% more likely to be a millionaire.
Now, both of these are, you can tell by the topics, they're very, very broad topics. Like, I have a couple different styles of content. One is, hey, broad top of funnel, let's get as many views as possible, and fit something super easily digestible like these two video topics is something that accomplishes that. Like the one where I'm wearing my University of Minnesota polo, I think that one has over 6 million views on TikTok alone, and I think a couple million more across other platforms. But then also I incorporate this the same exact style to break down more complex topics like, hey, what is an HSA or traditional versus Roth IRAs, different things like that. And I have found that specifically that skit style content where I'm playing multiple characters, it allows me to make these videos a lot more entertaining and a lot more like easily digestible for people that when you're watching short form videos, it's not like YouTube usually where you're searching, hey, how do I open a brokerage account or how do I invest in an index fund? These videos are just kind of popping up on your feed based on what the algorithm thinks you may like. So it can be kind of intimidating if you just start off the bat by saying a whole bunch of like 12th grade reading level finance terms that the average person doesn't understand. So if you can put it in a really approachable way, like a skit style, it has the ability to reach far, 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 far more people. And with every single form of content style that I've tried, this is the best at getting the most attention, so the most views and the most conversions over to followers. But again, if you're a financial advisor, maybe don't make these your only style of video because it is really hard for people to connect one-on-one with me when I'm just doing the skit style content because they then really hear me speaking directly to them on the camera, which I think is why some of those hiking videos I did got such high like followership conversions compared to other videos that maybe got more views than them.
Yes. Yeah. And I would 100% agree with that. I have found that the skits that I do consistently get 5 or even 10 times as many views as my average video, but they don't convert to clients as well. So they have a huge impact on my followership, which is a good thing because then I have more people who have said they're interested in the other content that I produce, those seeded videos that are diving more into a topic where they can relate to me one-on-one. So I would absolutely recommend working on a couple of these, trying them out, really understanding what makes you feel the most confident. And then there's editing to be done. And I think this is something that scares a lot of advisors. And when I started out, I was posting anywhere from 7 to 9 videos per week, and I was editing every single one of them myself. It was a lot of work. I have certainly outsourced it at this point, but starting out, to be able to put out that much content and only spend really about 2 hours editing and then some more time scripting and filming, it was absolutely life-changing to my business. The reason I needed to outsource was because, as I mentioned earlier, I got busy. I actually had clients that I needed to serve, and so I couldn't spend as much time on marketing. Nick, you are the person who actually taught me about L cuts and that sort of thing. talk to me a little bit about what you think are the most important elements of a well-edited video.
Yeah, when you're just starting out, you really only want to do two things to not overwhelm yourself. One is to add captions or subtitles to your video. Over half the people that watch short form videos start watching them without the sound on, and a lot of people watch videos all the way through without the sound on. So you don't want to alienate half of your potential audience by just not having subtitles throughout your entire video. Thankfully, the editing platforms, like basically all of them, make this super easy now. Or instead of you having to go through and like type out all of your captions and timestamp them yourself, like we had to do when we first started making our content ourselves.
Yep.
Basically, every editing platform has that automated now. So you just hit a button and it's like 98% right. You still have to go through and maybe edit a couple spelling on some words. Like maybe they have the wrong version of your or something in there. You have to fix that. But otherwise, it's basically good to go after hitting a button. And also, the second thing you have to do is just cut out any dead space in your videos. So if I was doing one scene of video, it's like, this is what an index fund is. And then I pause. You want to cut out that pause so you immediately go into the next scene without any of that dead air being there. Because like we mentioned earlier, people have really, really short attention spans. So you want to cut out as much of the dead space as possible to make sure people keep watching all the way till the end and they keep feeling like they're getting just value thrown upon them every second they're watching your video.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to play these through really quickly. I don't think we need to comment on them. I will just say that an L cut, the definition of it is that the audio from one clip continues playing as you have transitioned into another clip. The rest of these are pretty self-explanatory. And if you guys have any questions on them, please feel free to drop them in the comments. We'll make sure that we respond to all of them.
So that's cool. I'd like to learn more about that at some point. Join my free seminar to learn how to know.
So as you can see, the audio continued while I was already clipping back to my other quote unquote character.
Credit or debit? I'll use debit. Wait, you don't have a rewards credit card yet? No? Why would I want to get one?
In the course, which we'll talk about in a little bit, we talk a lot about scroll breaks and movement and different ways to grab attention. That is something that is a little bit more finicky. I don't want to dive into it too much right now, simply because there are about 5 different ways you can do it. One of which, though, is a text hook. This is a great way to grab someone.
What should I study in college to make the most money? First of all, avoid medical school.
You've probably seen a video something like this.
Why do only rich people know this?
Or maybe you've seen a video that looks like this.
Becoming your own bank is the greatest asset that you can build. And
I'm not going to assume anyone's takes on IULs, but I love to overlay or to twit or to stitch or otherwise talk about videos about people who are talking about financial topics that simply are not well communicated, and I want to educate on top of those. So being able to incorporate other people's videos is an absolutely fantastic way to go. Nick, any other thoughts on here before I continue on?
No, I'd say don't try to do everything at once. Again, you'll get overwhelmed. Just focus on cutting out dead air and adding captions to every single one of your videos, and you'll be good to go. Those are your first couple.
Agree. Yep, absolutely. And then thinking about editing, there are so many out there. There are so many different ways to edit your videos. We have decided through rigorous testing, much to our own detriment, we had to try out everything to try to find things that would work. CapCut is the best free option. Descript is the best paid option. I adore and swear by Descript. It makes my life so much easier. So these two, whichever one you decide, you're going to have a really good time. It's just going to make your life that much easier. And now we can get into what I keep mentioning as the most important part, because this is why we're here with Investipal, is because we have gone through exactly how to create the content. We've talked about what is the most important, how can you really set yourself apart from other financial advisors. So you create the content, a bunch of people watch the video, someone follows you, and one person wants to work with you. What do? How do they get in touch? How do they communicate with you in any sort of way? Well, this is where the custom links page comes in. So we both have a links page. As you can see, mine has that schedule a free intro call right here. It is above the fold. It is the first thing that someone can access and actually see. The reason for that is because that is my main conversion component. But as you can see down in the left side, I also have a section on this links page that talks about Investipal. So I am inviting people to use Investipal to scientifically identify their investment risk tolerance. They go through Investipal's questionnaire, they provide me with their email, but they also provide me with a lot of information around their assets as well as their risk tolerance, two things that I need to find out anyways, but they let me actually convert that person because then I can tell them how they can improve rather than just saying, hey, do you want to set up a call? Nick takes a slightly different approach because, as he mentioned, he is pushing people to these other brands that he partners with. And so he provides all of these in a very easy to access way. But as you can notice, both of these are custom. These are not just the home pages of our websites because the people arriving on these pages already know something. And at the very least, they already know you. They don't need the same introduction. They don't need the same broad approach that we apply to our home pages. They need a way to learn exactly what you do and how to get in touch with you. So building a links page, super affordable, whether it's Upwork, Fiverr, whichever firm you're already partnering with on your website, it's very, very easy to get these built because that is going to be the home of your other lead gen opportunities like newsletters, like lead magnets, and most importantly, like Investipal. So if you want to check these out a little bit further, you can look at hoskincapital.com/links, or you can look at nicktalksmoney.com/links. If you go to our social media pages as well, you're going to be able to find them. They're everywhere. But I don't want to spend too much time on that because I want to make sure that, Cam, I give you as much time as possible to really dive into what it looks like at Investipal and go deeper into the ways that you've supported me in actually growing my practice and getting leads to come in through the door.
Yeah, Nate, the one thing that you guys do very well is you establish value. You're doing so through education. And our approach behind this is, how do we give someone something back for free? Everyone wants something for free now. There can be a high hurdle rate before they find you on social media, they find you on Google paid ads to actually want to book a meeting with you. So if you don't have a massive content library to help educate that audience, what you can do to help give them back some value immediately is this white labeled lead magnet that lives directly on your advisor's website. And essentially what that client is going and doing is they're answering a risk questionnaire, but we've added an extra flavor to it where it's giving them back some immediate insights around their current investments and how that compares versus, like in the example on the screenshot on the left, how their portfolio compares versus the S&P, along with some different risk return statistics on their current portfolio. What it's actually doing is it's helping you qualify that lead instantly. So if you look over on the right-hand side, this is what the advisor would see on the back end. So anyone who completes this, they now enter into your sales funnel, and you'll see we have this 36% risk score. It's a bit small, but those three elements below that are the individual factors that make up that score. So now, you, the advisor, can see, okay, this individual came in, they're my ICP. They're over $1 million of AUM. I want to go chase this individual down. I already have a lot of information behind them. And I can understand what they're currently investing in. I can understand their risk capacity. I can understand their behavioral score that I can then use within my sales process. And what that allows you to do, if you move over to the next slide, is it gets the sale process down from, currently we hear about 1 to 3 weeks to about 1 day. What we see today with a lot of advisors, that first meeting I end up having with them is a get to know you meeting. It's a Q&A. It's, Nate, what's your net worth? What's your income? What's your expenses? They're not receiving a lot of value back. They're giving up a lot to you, but you haven't yet established that value. With our process, what we've been able to do is get that down to that 1 day benchmark where that client is providing all that information they don't really know they are, because they're getting some value back right out of the gate to understand their current level of risk. So some of the cool things we've added in, a lot of the feedback from Nate and our other customers is where we're seeing a lot of those pain points. One of them was, I spent a few hours parsing through account statements. So we added the ability in there for whether it's the advisor or the client to upload a PDF of their current portfolio. We scan all of that, build out a portfolio that gets fed in to do a risk analysis on their current portfolio and allows you to overlay that versus what you were suggesting. So now when you go in with that first meeting with the client, it changes it up from a Q&A to how I can help you. I already have an understanding of your risk. I already have an understanding of your investment portfolio, other information through that. Now I can say, okay, here's how I can help you. I've had a chance to review everything. I think, whether it's on the planning side, I think we can tweak this, or whether it's on your investment portfolio side, I think we can tweak this to help bring your current portfolio back in line with your given level of risk. So what that ends up looking like a bit more graphically is, that client or yourself can upload that account statement. We have a Gen AI tool in there that extracts all the holdings, so it's agnostic of whoever their provider is. It's going to build out that portfolio analysis for me, so I can see what my client's investing in. I can see the different risk exposures. I know Nate's very quantitative heavy, so we have a cool little spider web I think he loves in there that highlights, the factor tilts. Are you exposed to like value, growth, dividends, asset allocation, geographic mix? And then it actually backtests the portfolio. So it compares your portfolio versus theirs historically and generates like an in-depth risk analysis on both of those that gets fed into a proposal. And it also goes and generates an investment policy statement. So now when I go into that meeting again, I already have my compliance docs in order. I already have my proposals in order. I already have an understanding of the client. I'm giving them more value. And by giving them more value, you get to a yes a lot quicker.
Well said. And that's really what I've run into, is that suddenly getting clients, or getting leads at the very least, was very straightforward. I had plenty of them. The question now was, how do I get them into my firm in a way that makes sense so that I can go back to creating content and back to being in growth mode? And that's really where Investipal came in, was making that possible for me and making it really seamless all around. So Cam, thank you so much for sharing. We're going to get into a little bit more about why we're here, right? What is the point of all this? What can we do to support advisors and really make this a reality for you, rather than something you guys are just watching on a webinar? So Nick, I'll let you take this.
Yeah, so Nate and I, we founded this firm called N2 Content Marketing later last year, and really our main focus is to help advisors build short form video and social media into a warm lead generating machine, basically like Nate has. Because when you're first starting off with it, like most advisors that we've spoken with, they didn't really grow up with a lot of social media to begin with, much less like video creation. So they have no idea where to even start. So we help them by providing them a course and then a couple coaching calls with both Nate and myself. We'll explain that a little bit more in depth next slide. But first, let me show you what this actually does for the clients we've worked with. So this is a case study of Nick Marino. No, that is not me. We're showing the case study of it. I was kind of confusing with the same name. But he is an independent financial advisor who founded his firm Breakaway Wealth in January of this year. He didn't start with a big book of business, so he was really looking anywhere he could to start getting in more and more and more of those warm leads that he got a little bit from a couple existing client referrals. But as mentioned earlier, referrals are kind of few and hard to come by. So what we did, Nick joined the course on March 25th. He basically watched the entire thing. It's 2+ hours long of just pure actionable video content, video presentations. We take you through exactly what we think a financial advisor needs to know, starting from nothing, starting from zero social media experience, and ending with creating a short form video content that does attract their ideal clients and helps them schedule those calls on their calendar basically passively. I mean, you still have to make the content, but the leads do start to flow in pretty passively after that. So Nick completed the course in one day. He was super jazzed about joining. He couldn't really stop watching, so he completed it one day. Scheduled his first coaching call with us on March 28th, a couple days later. In it, we reviewed his existing content, basically told him what to improve from the couple of videos he did try to make originally, and then just dove deep into the blueprint of how we would attack the situation if we were him trying to reach the clients that he was trying to reach, and told him exactly first of all, how to use the equipment, because even though the equipment is pretty cheap, it's still kind of like intimidating figuring out how to use it. So we helped him set up all that just to make sure that production quality was never a reason that someone scrolled by his videos. We went through a scripting process with him. We really dove deep into exactly what video topics he should be talking about. So by the time we came back together like a week and a half later on April 9th, we had more content to review. We kind of rinsed and repeat that same cycle through his final coaching call as well. And each time he just kept getting better and better and better at making videos, and his content kept getting more and more reach. So much reach, in fact, in the first month of him working with us. So from the day he joined the course, he didn't have any videos made yet. Through April 25th, he accumulated over 100,000 completely organic video views and gained over 500 followers across platforms, which is crazy. I mean, just think about you guys. If you guys write blogs or if you write LinkedIn posts, how long did it take you to reach that 100,000 organic view mark if you have in general? And most importantly, this isn't just like a vanity metric where, okay, cool, he got 100,000 views and a bunch of followers. Like, did this actually translate over to business success? Yes, it did. It took a little bit longer. It took him another 2 weeks, and where he crossed, I think, 300,000 views at that point when he was about 50 days past his course enroll date. One video that we specifically prompted him to make that said, okay, you built up trust with your following right now. Tell them what you do now in this video. Now that they've gotten a lot of value from you, tell them exactly what you do and how they can work with you. That one video brought in 4 warm prospect calls. He closed one of them immediately. We haven't followed up to see if he closed the rest of the 3 yet, but he is very optimistic about it. And yeah, as you can see in his quote up there in the top right, he is very, very excited about short-form video. He said he thinks it's going to be his main client acquisition channel, and we see results like this all the time with the clients that we do work with.
Yes. All right. So the question is, what in the world did he do? What does it look like? What's actually provided, Nick, beyond the like getting more granular into the course?
Exactly. So as we mentioned, the course it's a video course about 2 hours long, just to get you to speak the exact same language that we do about short form video content. So by the time you do jump on these coaching calls with us, they're either 2 coaching calls or 3 coaching calls, depending on the tier that you pick. We speak the same language. We can give you actionable feedback that you fully and truthfully understand. And as you can see, hey, our goal is to skip the BS and just tell you exactly what you need to do in order to make short-form video a worthwhile time investment, because obviously advisors are some of, if not the most busiest people in the world, especially as business owners. If you are an independent advisor, there's so much that's going on your plate. There's so much on your plate right now that we don't want to waste your time. So we want to make this as valuable as possible for you. And speaking of valuable, this is a great time for the webinar, actually, because we're running our biggest sale of the year this week. It ends on Friday, where we're getting 30% off the sticker price of all of our course and coaching packages. But not only that, we're providing these 7 bonus deliverables you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there that are mainly designed to, 1, give you more value, obviously, but 2, get you as hot of a start on these social media platforms as possible, especially with the descriptor view and then the video edits. So if we review and rewrite your first 2 video scripts and then edit those with our professional editing team, you're going to start out of the gates as hot as possible and get into the good favors with these algorithms to really start building up your viewership almost immediately. Whereas if you're starting by yourself, we've seen that some advisors kind of stumble out of the gate and that kind of affects them for the next couple of videos, and eventually they're able to get out of it. But it really does help if you do start out hot. And again, this is only available if you do sign up before the end of this Friday here. And we offer a couple other things like the compliance guide. Obviously, a big question that advisors have when they're working with us or when they're speaking with us is, okay, like, I want to do short form video, but is this compliant? Like, is it easy to stay compliant, et cetera? Nate talks a lot about this in our compliance webinars, but he also made this compliance guide that goes through everything that he has learned about the compliance process while making short form video content. We are not compliance experts. We are not compliance professionals. Again, you should take this as like, okay, that's a good piece of information. Let me show this to my compliance team, but is it a really good thing to show your compliance team and read over just to see that it's not that big of a deal? Like, your current compliance systems are probably already set up to handle things compliantly. You just need to plug in a couple things here and there. And then we do also offer the viral video database as part of your purchase of any of these course and coaching packages that Nate mentioned earlier. This is the database that we keep track of the most viral content inside of the finance niche, so you can see what is performing well for other people, and whether you want to try doing a similar format as them, or whether you want to try doing a similar video topic as them. Don't copy them. That's bad. Stay away from that. But if there's a certain topic that is really hot on social media, chances are you as an advisor can put a unique spin on it and provide an extra layer of value that other people simply can't. And that video has a chance to get a good amount of views. And in order to claim this discount, we should probably mention that you can either scan the QR code on screen or go to n2contentmarketing.com/course, and you'll see all the options available there.
Yes. All right. So then just to give you a quick walkthrough, this is exactly what the course looks like, because in the case of Nick Marino, he just ripped through it in 2 days. He wanted to go through everything, and he did exactly what we would ask of all of you, which is go through one of the sections and then actually implement it. Actually do something with that information. Understand the platforms, and then go set up profiles on each of those platforms. Get your content organized and have a system in place, because we do not rise to the level of our aspirations. We fall to the level of our systems, really understanding how that should work for you so that you can start ideating and scripting as you learn exactly how to do that. and you are fully ready to record and post by the time you make it through this course. And when we come together, we are filling those gaps. We are answering those last questions so that by the end of our first coaching call, you are ready to sit down and actually start filming. So this is the promo code, which is in there kind of as a useless piece of information because you simply cannot miss it. If you go to n2contentmarketing.com/course, it is applied on every single thing. There is no way you are going to make it through and purchase a course without getting that 30% off. So this is by far the best moment to actually get in on this and make this happen, because we're talking about thousands of dollars of savings with all of those additional deliverables. All right. I have been talking plenty. We have been talking plenty. We covered so much today. So I want to leave this up here because I do think that getting in touch with Investipal, getting in touch with Cam is going to be extremely valuable. And over this, I'm going to do some Q&A. So we have one question that came in while I was ranting, asking which audio is your recommendation? Which one do we think that we should be using? I personally think that the VideoMic Me-L is going to be your best all-around microphone. If you get the lavalier mic, you're going to want to have it on something. You're going to want to be wearing a collared shirt like me, but then if you're wearing a shirt like Nick's, it's suddenly that much harder to attach. It's going to make it that much more challenging. So I think having one that plugs right into your phone and is pointed towards you, that's going to be the way to go. I think that's what I would recommend. Nick, any other thoughts?
Yeah, agreed. The brand there is the Rode, by the way, and there's a VideoMic Me-L and a Me-C. I think the Me-L is for older iPhone models, like all the iPhone models before the most recent one. Is that right, Nate?
Correct.
Yeah. And
then
Me-C
the Me-C is the USB-C, right? Yeah, USB-C is Me-C, and then Me-L is the Lightning plugin on there. Any other questions while we're going through this? Nick, I got to roast you a little bit just because I thought this comment was hilarious, but said, it's surprising your audio isn't great today, Nick. How dare you? How can we be talking about creating short form video and not have pristine audio? At the end of the day, we're human too. It is just that much harder to link everything up. But Nick, do you have anything to say to defend yourself?
Is my audio actually bad?
No,
that's the only question.
I think it's totally fine. We have set the standard so high that if it's not perfectly polished, that's the challenge. But no, your audio is coming through totally fine. Maybe it's because I actually took the time to hook up mine, so I'm not the one with bad audio today. But that is usually how it goes. All right.
Nate,
Any
I have one
final
question.
Questions? Yeah.
So when I chat with our advisor clients, there seems to be a stigma around how much time it's going to take. Could you shed some light on how much time you commit to actually running your business versus like filming content?
Yes, absolutely. And it's a great question because really, I don't think I have time anymore to do it every single week if that's how I chose to do it. If I wanted to sit down on a Monday and film all of the content I wanted to post for the following week, I would find myself grinding it out and losing the fun of it. So instead, I've been batching the content. And so what I will do now is I will write anywhere between 20 and 50 video scripts, and I will just sit down and record those in a day, kind of like going to a conference or something like that. And that's enough content to last me a month or two in most cases. So I would highly recommend batching it. Then I'm able to provide it to my video editors, or I would just take a second day to sit down. Maybe not a second day, maybe more like 3.5, 4 hours to actually sit down and edit it. So I would totally recommend taking the time to batch it rather than doing it weekly. Nick, you're doing the same, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think I probably record like once or twice a month at this point.
Yep. Yeah, it just makes it so much more doable, so much more approachable, so that you aren't trying to do that switching where you're switching from work back into creating content and you have a meeting with a client that gets in the way. You can really have it be dedicated. Yeah.
Very helpful.
All right. Did we have no questions that I missed? Anything real quick before we call it? All right. I think we're all good to go. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been such a pleasure, and I hope that you will join us for a compliance webinar or one of our upcoming ones with companies like XYPN. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, everyone.
See ya.